everyone, and welcome to 19 O'Clock News, a Kodocha podcast featuring me, That Kodocha Girl, and
Me, Mahou Shoujo M.
and today we'll be talking about the differences between the anime and manga, but we're going to focus on season 2 of the anime today and the differences in the manga there. And we have a very special guest who's returning today. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jacob. How's it
It's your
going?
pal Jacob.
It's really nice to have you back on the show.
It's good to be back. I like talking with you guys. It was fun last time.
Oh, yeah.
We thought so too. So I'm really glad that you enjoyed yourself. So glad we're gonna get to dive in and attack season 2, because it's not attack as in like, hold on.
Well, maybe it's
Maybe attack season 2. I meant it as in, explore enthusiastically. But
Double
we'll see
meaning.
what happens.
Which I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited for the episode today. Like I feel like I have so many thoughts, and I feel like we had so many thoughts on the last part of this little two-parter episode podcast thingy we're doing. But we couldn't really dive in because we were focusing on season 1.
We're trying to stay focused on season 1.
Very poorly focused.
Yeah,
As
I had
usual.
just finished season 2 at that time too, so it was really difficult to keep on track.
All right, well, Em, would you like to kick us off with our first topic of the discussion today?
Absolutely. So we're starting off just sort of discussing some of the general differences between the anime and the manga, which for this particular season does involve just a lot of additional arcs, things that did not happen necessarily in the manga. So it's hard to think about season 2 and what differences there are between the anime and the manga without talking about the ever controversial New York arc.
Yes.
Hooray.
She is so long.
Yeah, that's really my only complaint with it. I told Em this before, but my feelings on the New York arc are they changed ever since we got series 2 on Blu-ray recently by Discotek. Thank you very much. Amazing work, amazing sub work on the season. It made it so much more watchable for me. And I think a lot of other fans feel the same way. And it made the New York arc bearable for me. Is it my favorite? No, but do I hate it? I don't hate it either, but it is way too long because I was like sitting there. I'm like, okay, when are we gonna,
Yeah.
check in on the high school or the middle school gang, and
So
when are we
when
gonna
you
go
say
back?
you don't hate it, do you not hate it like Akito doesn't hate sushi? Or
Not in that way, no.
It's very mid in your opinion, maybe, or is it better than mid?
It's very mid. Yeah.
Hmm. I was so torn with this arc, especially because this time around, I think I agree. Like the subs make it so much easier to watch. I think the things that I like where it ends up and some of the themes that they end up exploring. I do think that, especially at the beginning, and honestly, my complaint with a lot of the additions that they added in terms of like arcs that they added are that they all border very soap opera-ish,
Yes.
and feel very overdramatic and not based in reality. And so, like, for me with the New York arc, like with Brad terrorizing Sana and Naozumi, like that chunk of
Freaking
the arc, I'm
Brad,
like,
dude.
yeah, I know. And like, he looks just like Hayama. And also, Shimura is there. Like, I don't love the recolorings of the animation. That is weird.
It's very lazy.
Yeah, like it felt like it, but then, on the flip side, like they did design, I think, some really cool characters. Like the Hamiltons all look great. And Bernie is a gift from above.
Yes,
Uh
for sure.
so it's interesting. I'm very torn on the arc because like I like where we end with Naozumi getting to know his birth family, or his birth father anyway, and I think that all is very good. I don't love the beginning of the arc where it's very like, who could be doing this with the attempted murder.
Oh my gosh, dude. That was that was something else.
Right, or yeah, just
It's like
because
after 3 or 4 times of somebody trying to kill you, I would like book it, but like they
go
were just like, let's
home.
just like we need to do the play. I'm like, yeah, okay, like, let's just watch out for each other. Like,
Yeah.
no, leave.
Yeah, I also too, I mean, and you guys know this about me. I have a theater degree and I have a master's degree in functionally commercial theater, so Broadway, basically, and how those particular things are put together. So it was very interesting to see a 90s Japanese take on Broadway generally, and some of the inaccuracies there. It very much felt like they were just sort of doing stuff to move things along however they
They're kind of
wanted.
like winging it, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think that I mean, one, we have to acknowledge that these episodes were written and I think still, I think we still struggle, I think, with like we struggle with understanding Japan and they had a struggle with understanding us. And a lot of that has to do with language barriers, which I think was
Yeah.
probably worse in the 90s, especially because we didn't have the internet really at that time. So like they're really just sort of guessing, I think, how things work and function.
Mhm.
That's
But
interesting
it's
though. What would you say
oh
are like the inaccuracies, if you don't mind me asking?
oh, not at all. It is very unusual for actors to be brought from overseas to perform in shows generally. On Broadway, you guys might have heard of this. There was recently a show called K-pop the Musical, which was sort of about the Korean pop music industry. And they brought over a K-pop star to star in it. But the show ended up closing, I think, within a few weeks because even though like that, the star that they brought over was very famous in South Korea and also very popular and very famous within the K-pop music scene, like American audiences didn't know who she was or how to connect with her necessarily. And so like it's a big expense, which is not going to likely have any return in terms of ticket sales,
Yeah.
is part of it. And then the other thing too is like the extremely short run of the show. Like if you're bringing over stars from any other country, you are likely going to want to do a longer run of a production. Like I think that the production ran what, 3 nights in the New York arc, which is very unusual. That's a big expense to put on a show for 3 days with that much rehearsal leading up to it. I think it's a bit unrealistic in that respect. It wouldn't have been a good investment.
That's really
So
interesting.
Yeah. What
yeah,
was kind of
big
weird for me was
big
that
nerd moment.
the play was in Japanese in
Oh
New
my
York.
god. Yes, that's something else. Is there so convenient that everybody, like all the Hamiltons, speak Japanese.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it could have been a really interesting, well, also too, I mean, kindly, it does drive me a little bit nuts whenever they're like, and this American character, this English speaking character, who's clearly a Japanese person who is speaking maybe not the best
I
English.
don't I don't think there
This
was any moment when like they spoke English. I think maybe there was
no,
like a moment when like Sana tried. I seem to
no,
recall that, but other than that,
yeah,
I don't
Kodocha
remember
didn't even
any.
try it. I'm talking about other animes.
Oh,
Like
I see.
I think every anime has like some sort of like I feel like a scene or something where there's either like an English speaking character or like, wow, I didn't know you speak English so well. You were able to help those tourists or whatever the case may be. And it's always like the worst. The supposed native English speakers, it's always like the worst English you've ever heard in your entire life. And
Yeah.
I'm like, do you know how many weebs live in Japan? Like, who would be so beyond happy to like to record these lines for you? Like, you like, come on. That's a rant for a different day. No, you're correct. They don't even try it. Just everybody in New York speaks Japanese.
Yeah. I'll say that I beforehand I didn't watch series 2, like before the Blu-rays came out. I was
Mm.
not a fan of the fan subs because they were kind of like they didn't age well. So not knowing that going into it, I was just like, "Oh, okay, I guess they're going to New York now," which was kind of really jarring because they were like kind of at the peak of that arc, right?
Hmm.
Like Sana had just like told Akito that she loves him, and then all the drama with Fuka, and then they just drop it entirely to go to New York for 20 episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was probably the worst timing, honestly, for it to happen. Like, if it would have happened maybe back in season one and was, of course, we all hope that that arc would have been shorter. but like it would have been okay, I think. But the fact that they put it after the confession is like, what were you all thinking?
So I'm actually going to push back on this a little bit for two reasons. The first reason being that so canonically, like after the confession, Sana pulls out of school and starts working a lot full time, and the gang just like stops seeing her altogether. So I think like it makes sense that this could be a place where like the New York arc would fit in. What I think would have made it really great is if they layered in those scenes with the gang. Like
Mhm.
missing Sana, wondering what
Yeah.
she's up to, Akito running all over Tokyo, which they like really don't get into his like obsessive running and stuff. So I think if they'd like layered the New York arc over some of the stuff that was happening in Japan, I think it could have worked as a plausible this is what's taken Sana out of everybody else's orbit for a while.
But I was gonna say if you had that at that moment, like if you had that focus on the canon material and you had the New York arc, then yes, absolutely that would have been a good spot for it in the anime, the New York arc.
Do we know how far they or Obana was with the manga while they were doing the New York arc?
You know, I've been thinking about that a lot. Let me pull up. It's hard because we only have the publication dates of the tankobons. We don't have the publication dates of each manga chapter, so it's hard to
Yeah.
know for sure. But
Mhm.
I think I'm gonna excuse my typing really quick. I'm just gonna pull it up and we can kind of compare a little bit because we know that the first chapter like came out in 1994 in August. So, and theoretically, it's about 5 chapters to a volume historically. So, if we're looking at chapters, this was all stuff that was happening in like book 7. So, chapter 31 ish. Now I got to do math.
It seemed like the New York arc was mid 1997, which was only a year before the manga ended, right?
Yeah. So, actually, yeah. So, Suspense in New York was airing July 18th, 97. So yeah, I think you're right. They probably did the episode for like episode 65 for the confession, like probably right after that manga chapter had come out. So they were probably treading water,
Yeah.
which makes sense, but also
Yeah, it is what it is at
um
this point.
it is. And on some levels, I'm almost like loath to say it, and I'm kind of surprised that I am even saying it, but I almost prefer the 20 episodes of just like, hanging out and like wait for the next thing to come out more
Mhm.
than I
Kind of
like
like
the
series
things that they
one.
changed. Yeah. Like, because in the subsequent additional arcs, they kind of touch on canon material from the manga, but change it in little ways, or like they just try to fit the manga in odd ways, if that makes sense. And I almost like prefer
Exactly.
them not touching it at all than when they twist things.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
I touched on in my review video was how like
mm,
it just felt like watered down canon material and it was really frustrating as someone who is very passionate about the manga and then I go and watch that because I remember when I first watched Kodocha, of course I watched season 1 first and then found out that it didn't have an English dub for the rest of it and I was like, okay, maybe I'll just go ahead and just read the manga. And so I had certain expectations when I started season 2. And of course, with the whole filler arcs and non-canon things and the bad subs, it was like I couldn't stand it and I remember like kind of just having it on in the background towards the end of it because I just was so disappointed at the time.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I really wish I could remember more about watching it for the first time, season 2. I hadn't read the manga yet. At the time I didn't really read scans and I always looked for it in stores, but I wasn't really finding it. So yeah, I wish I could remember what my take on it was. I know now that the subs were really bad. I don't remember clocking that as much at the time, but I was also like, 13. So
Some more topics within this topic, I guess a subtopic of the general differences. So, we talked a little bit about the mixed canon stuff that was going on. So one change that I have mixed feelings about, I don't know about you guys, but So when, Sana's back in Japan and Fuka and Akita are together, we also get Sana and Naozumi together, which does not happen in the manga. So how do you guys feel about that?
Jacob, you go first.
Remind me what episodes they were because like I don't remember a whole lot about that. Like I only remember being so relieved when the New York arc ended.
It's episode like 82, which in essentially like they're coming off of the plane and they're being interviewed by reporters. Everybody's like, "Welcome back to Japan." And they're like, "Did something happen in New York? Are you guys together?" And they go, "Yes." And that's kind of the last we hear about it, really.
Until
Like,
they break up.
yeah, until they
Yeah.
break up. So, I remember as a concept, it really bothered me that they put Sana and Naozumi together, which doesn't happen in the manga. But then on the other hand, like they're in a relationship in like name only. Like they don't, nothing about their relationship changes or is more romantic. I'd say there's more romantic stuff that happens to them before that than when they're actually in a relationship. So I think the thing that I don't like, and I know this is very selfish of me, but it's that it gives now Sana shippers like a leg to stand on. And I'm like, you guys can be delusional. That's okay. But
Oh,
I know I'm being mean. Lee, I love you and I'm sorry.
see,
I don't remember them ever saying that in the New York arc. Was that the first time it was revealed?
Yeah,
um,
it's right after they come back from New York.
That's
yeah,
interesting.
it's kind of like they kind of have like this bonding moment. They have it towards the end of the arc. I don't remember the specific episode, but I remember they're like sitting together in the park and they're kind of having this moment and they're like, we'll always be together, we'll always be there for each other. And then they kind of have a similar moment on the plane and I think they hold hands and then that's when they come back and they tell the reporters like, yeah, we're together. And see, it's funny because like I don't like it for a completely different reason than M. I don't like it because honestly, Nazumi is one of my favorite characters. He is on my top five. He's my number three. I love him so much. Do I like him with Sana? I wouldn't have been upset if they ended up together. Of course, like I'm more Sana and Akita, of course, but like why did they have to give him the false hope? Like, why did they have to put him with Sana to make him think like, oh, I'm gonna be with her now? Like, oh my gosh. And then they have like that scene, I think, where like he breaks up with her because he knows that she wants to be with Akito. And oh my God. And they like I think they show like a scene of him like crying in the car, like, why did they do this to this precious boy?
He has suffered enough.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
that is fair. That is fair because he is still the sweetest, most angel baby boy, and I do love him. To me, like I could never really see a universe where they were together. Just because, like they lack that thing that makes up a romantic relationship. But that's just me.
But what do you think about that whole relationship, Jacob?
Yeah, I think I don't remember it. Like it was kind of just like a nothing thing until they broke up. So it kind of just I remember them saying yes, we're together, and nothing else. Well, besides breaking up, which I kind of thought was really abrupt. Like they didn't really have any chemistry, and then like when Sana couldn't say the thing on TV because of her past with Akito, like Naozumi kind of just like figured it out in like 2.8 seconds and said, "Well, I guess it just won't work. Like we got to break up," and that was it. Like I don't remember much about it.
Yeah, they didn't really explore it.
Yeah,
I
No.
think, there's like no, they just are together and then they're not.
Yeah,
So,
I just found it like the whole thing to be just really depressing, honestly. Like
mm,
like I said, like I am a big Naozumi fan, so to me it was like kind of like pouring salt on an open wound for the boy. Like they literally, she's clearly not wanting to be more than friends with him. It's more of a, you know, companion thing. Like she does feel comfortable with him and they feel like they can support each other, but it's like M said, there's not really that spark there with them. And it just makes me sad because I feel like it's just really heartbreaking for him. And it like the anime just makes it worse. And again, I know like it's not completely canon, but like it just makes me sad.
Especially after all the stuff they put him through in the New York arc with like his
So
sister and
real.
family and mother and everything. He's just like he's just the character that's designed to be miserable forever.
Exactly. And I just was like, why? Like, you know, even the manga didn't really do him that dirty, but yeah, it's like your mom was using you and just treating you like crap, and then you get this false hope. Yeah, it's bad.
Pizza Rick is the only one who loves Naozumi,
Oh yeah.
the mom's boyfriend.
Yeah, it took me a
I've been
second. I
calling
was
him
like,
Pizza Rick.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it
thought it
took
was
me.
yeah, I'm like what are you talking about? Is that like a user in Discord?
No.
Yeah, that's where my mind went first, and then I was like, oh yeah, the guy with like the
Like
light green hair.
Yeah. Yeah,
the
yeah.
good
The guy
old
with the light green
Pizza
hair.
Rick on the Discord.
Classic Pizza Rick. I'm changing Daily Kodocha's name to Pizza Rick now.
I was actually
now
just
Zumi
thinking,
fan account.
yes, I was just thinking we need to like make a meme of that now, like him on like a pizza, slice of pizza.
I love it.
Then we have the Akito and Fuka relationship kind of coming to a close here as well at that point in the story,
Fuka's blindness.
which was not in the manga. And it was like, why?
This is what I mean about the soap opera stuff. Like, it's just, I'm fine. Yeah, it was odd. It was just weird because I like the, the scene in the arcade happens. Well, that's something. Okay, rewinding, because I mean, I think the inciting incident to Fuka's blindness sort of comes from Sengoku's like having it out for Akito, but the reason for the tension in their relationship is completely changed in the anime, where I'm kind of disappointed in that, like that they like turned it into Sengoku trying to like break up Fuka and Akito, because I'm like, yeah, get him, break him up. Rooting for you.
30-year-old man caring so much about like 13-year-old relationships.
It's
yeah,
cringe.
and especially toward the end of the Karate Club arc, that gets real weird and obsessive, which Sengoku is like a weird and obsessive character, and he absolutely does have an unfair bias, but it's almost like mustache twirling evil villain, like cheesy. Like it doesn't have the same, like, because I think one of the scary things about Sengoku as a character, especially in the manga, is that like he could be a real person, like somebody who was bullied as a child, is taking it out on his own students, who would go as far as to strike a student. Like it's unsettling because it's based in reality, whereas I think in the anime they make him more evil but also less realistic.
Yeah, like they cut out the scene where he attacks Akito.
Yes, which
I feel like that's, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, that I think is a much better explanation for Akito's suspension.
Exactly.
Than something like that happening in the arcade. The arcade stuff does happen, of course, but he's already suspended when that happens, and Fuka doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
I remember
that change so weird.
I remember not thinking much about the Fuka's blindness thing. I knew it wasn't in the manga, but it was just kind of like, okay, whatever, sure. I don't remember anything, like, I guess I erased it from my memory. Like, I thought they did adapt the punch, but what did Akito get suspended for then?
For Fuka getting hurt in the arcade.
Okay. Okay,
yeah.
I missed that
So,
then.
yeah, that was my understanding anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So they made it about that. And then I also like, especially too, because at that stage in the manga, Akito has come so far, and I think has really kind of put some of the harder things and opinions that people held about him kind of behind him as much as he could. And so it was hard to like watch, Sengoku puppet master like Fuka's parents into having a bad opinion about him, and all of these other adults not believing him. It's like tough to watch, I guess, the gaslighting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when I first watched it too, I kind of found the whole Fuka eye thing to be very forgettable. So it didn't really I didn't really think about it much until I
Oh.
rewatched it with the new subs, and then I thought about it more because at first, again, I didn't really think about it much, but then I was like, yeah, that was a dumb decision on the anime team's part.
It is funny. I think the Fuka's blindness being such a touchstone for me in like things that I don't like about the season is probably because the clips from those episodes were used in like every single Kodocha AMV that was made between like 2005 and like every single Kodocha AMV, there's always like that panning up shot of Fuka with the bandages on her eyes in the bed. And so it was just always in my face. I think is part of it.
Gotta make those AMVs dramatic.
I know. There's no other material in Kodocha they could have used. So I don't know. And it's also too like Akito and Fuka's relationship dissolving and like Akito feeling guilt about it. I think I think that they were trying to give him a reason to feel extra guilty to stay with her. But I think just being a 13-year-old boy and like the idea of making somebody upset is probably enough, if that makes sense. They're like, oh, Akito feels guilty, so he wants to stay with Fuka. We'd better give him a reason to feel guilty. I'm like, no, him just being a 13-year-old boy, I think is enough. Like,
yeah,
I can't relate as I was not a 13-year-old boy, but as a 13-year-old girl that dated 13-year-old boys when I was 13, they were always very hung up on the possibility of making me cry. Like that was the worst possible thing in the world, where it's like, it's actually much worse to be in a not so positive relationship. So, but that was just my middle school experience coming out to play.
I don't remember anything when I was 13, so no? I can't tell you anything.
How about you, Ari? Do you remember when you were 13?
Oh yeah, I was let's see what I was doing. I was crushing on one guy. He didn't like me. He thought it was weird for crushing on him. And I was writing really bad Naruto fan fiction, so there's that.
I love it. I'm really sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
Middle school was tough.
Yeah, school was tough. I think that's why I don't remember. I just like wiped it from my memory.
Real. Yeah, I don't know. I think everybody's got like an orientation to the past, the present, or the future. And I do think I'm kind of a past oriented person, which is why I think I bring up so often my early relationship with Kodocha, just because I remember it so vividly. But that's just me.
Oh, I'm there with you, trust me. I still fondly remember, certain things, writing those fan fictions and like being really intensely into cosplay and shipping,
Yes.
And I try to bring that spirit back into my adult life, which is really hard sometimes. But with my channel and like being really active in anime communities now, it's brought back the magic for me for sure.
I feel the same way. I think that there's a comic that I saw recently that was like, I'll have to send it to you guys because I don't think I could probably describe it well, and I'll probably cut me talking about it. But basically about how like your 30s are about reconnecting with who you were when you were 13, and that has been true for me for sure. Like the closer I get to 30, the more I'm like, wow, I just have the same interests I had when I was in middle school.
Same.
I
didn't know so much of my personality was going to be solidified then.
I do resonate with that though. The whole like trying to what was that you said, like when you're 30 you kind of like reconnect to who you were when you were 13?
Yeah, I'm back and I'm ready to go deeper for me, and I'm like, yeah, I have gone deeper. I'm learning Japanese. I'm like buying way more merch than I ever had now that I have grown-up money.
Right.
And like I'm now like I'm a much bigger part of these fandom spaces than I was when I was in middle school. Like, we are literally on a podcast right now.
Kind of off topic. Did any of you ever go to Insider, Nintendo's forums?
No, I don't.
No, like I resonate with what Em says because like as an adult, I've been like I made this really stupid sprite comic on Insider when I was 13 about Pokemon, like Larvitar and everyone just making friends or whatever. And when I was 30, like a year ago, I bought plushies for every single one of the characters that were in the comics, and I'm just like, what am I doing?
That's amazing, though.
You are living your best life. That's what you're doing.
Yes, I totally agree.
But yeah.
But anyway.
No, I love it. I think it's great. So, is that all we want to say on Fuka's Eye? Should we move on to fan club shenanigan?
I will say that I think my problem, like with the Fukas, just like that whole arc in general, just like Fuka getting her eyes, what was it, like poisoned by plants or something, and
Yeah,
like
unclear.
just everything revolving that and then breaking up. Like, I hate to bring it back to filler again, but because there was so much of it, it was just really difficult to care anymore. Like in the manga, it's like this running thing where it's like beat after beat, story beat after story beat. But in the anime, it's just because we spent so long away from these people, like it's just like trying to care about the things that they left for 20 episodes. It was difficult for me.
Mm.
Mhm.
Definitely fair. And it's so odd too, how they treat Fuka and Akita's relationship generally in the anime. Like, because my impression from the manga, what I sort of pictured was that like they're in a relationship, but like they really only go places with like Aya and Tsuyoshi. You know, occasionally he'll walk her back to her house and they'll hang out like a little bit, but you know, he's not really giving much in that relationship. He's just sort of, you know, going along with it. And the anime made it seem a bit more reciprocal, especially in the Fuka's blindness arc when he like it almost seemed like he didn't want to be broken up with, if that makes sense, or like that he was more invested in the relationship than I think he would have been.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
That was probably the worst thing about it, honestly, was his interactions with her and how like he seemed more resigned to be with her and like accepting of it. And in the manga, there was never really that moment of truly accepting being with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just a bad match for a variety of reasons. One of which I think is that, like, you know, Fuka, I think, has, in some ways, is just wants him to be Takaishi,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and he does not like being told what to do. That is a
That
key thing for him. And Fuka
that's
loves to tell people
exactly
what to do.
yeah,
So,
that's exactly why I think that's the biggest thing is the fact that like he's very much a free spirit and a rebellious little boy. So
Yeah, we
yeah.
don't
and
we
that
don't really oh, go ahead.
oh no, I was done. I was just rambling.
We don't really see like Akito's regression in the anime, do we?
Not
Just like
really.
from
They,
going back to how he was in the elementary school.
they certainly, I think that it's so interesting to me because I think like with this season they soften aspects of the manga that are more intense. I think like
Mhm.
Sengoku punching Akito, but then on the flip side they'll do stuff that's like sometimes more adult or darker in a different way. So it's like softening Akito's aggression and things like that. It's so strange to me, like because you could make an argument I think for the anime being like this is a kids anime, this is on like during a kids time slot, you know, and that's why they made those changes because they didn't want kids, you know, imitating characters or whatever. But like episode 3, you know, he hands Sana a knife, so it's not like it's new
Mm-hmm.
part of the
Exactly.
conversation, but it's just so strange to me. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Jacob?
I just think of one of my favorite moments in the manga is when they see each other in the street after not seeing each other for so long, and then they embrace, and you see
Yes.
Akito's eyes go from like really sharp to like soften it up how it usually is in that part of the manga, and like that's one of my favorite
Yes.
moments, and like that's kind of not present in the anime. Like the hug happens, but it's just kind of like it feels empty now.
Yeah,
I
it's very watered down and it's not as impactful for sure.
I agree because they don't really show like because Akito in volumes 7 and 8 and like half of volume 6, I would say he's spiraling. He is not
Yeah.
good. He's not okay, and you never
Mhm.
really get that sense in the anime. It's harder, I think, to read why he's doing the things that he's doing. Anything else to add?
Nope.
Nope.
Sick. Fan club arc. Sana's fan club. I didn't mind the fan club people necessarily. Like I thought it was really interesting that like, you know, Sana has stands. Like of course she does. And I also loved in some ways how like obsessive they made them because that's so felt true to life. It reminded me a bit of like K-pop stands. and how they have video footage of every single concert that the person that they're a fan of has ever done ever. And GIFs and videos, and they make edits, and that felt very much like those people. I didn't love the doppelganger thing. And the trying to force Sana to step aside because they didn't like that she was going through a tough patch with her career. I thought that was really weird and uncomfy, and I didn't love Sana's response to it, and I didn't love them for being, frankly, crappy fans.
Yeah, I'd say that was probably the worst section of season 2.
Yeah, full confession time. I skipped these episodes after the Christmas arc, and when it was apparent that they were going to go into one-off episodes again for filler, I was just so tired. And I didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I skipped it. So I don't actually know what you guys are talking about.
Okay, well then to recap for you, it's Sana's fan club contacts Sana basically and is like, hey girl, where you been? Because she hasn't been working since the incident with the being fired from that drama series. Yeah. And so the writer of the drama series comes back and he's like, actually, maybe you were right about stuff, and maybe you're actually a great artist, and I would like to work with you on a math video series. And so it's in a very crappy studio. They have no money, with a very small crew, and it's a very low budget project. And Sana invites her fan club to come to the set, and they are so distraught by how low budget this project is when she is to them such a great star that they end up leaving the set. And then the next day Sana gets a letter from somebody who's like, you're not the real Sana Kurata. I am. I was in Mansion of Water. I was on Child's Toy. You need to stop impersonating me. And she's like, well, this is crazy because I am the real Sana. And
wait a minute.
Yeah, wait a freaking minute. And so the fake Sana begins sending letters to people that she has worked with in the past, basically trying to drum up more work for her. And she around town, she starts seeing posters of a concert that she's supposedly performing in. So she goes to it to see what's going on, and it's and the crowd is going crazy, and people are dancing for this fake Sana that's up on the screen, up on the stage, pretending to be her. And she's like, maybe it would be better if they were the real Sana Kurata, which is so not her response. Anime writers, I don't think really understand her, but that's a rant for a different day.
So this is an entirely new arc then? They did another thing?
They did another thing. That's why I added it to the list for general differences.
Maybe I should have watched it.
It did take a few episodes. It was, I don't know. They do resolve it, and basically she's like, I'm the real Sana Kurata, you jerks, and you should definitely watch my math video when it comes out because it's going to be really, really good. And it is really, really good. It actually paves the way for Sana and Zenjiro to bring the Kodocha TV show back, Child's Toy. So there you have it.
Interesting.
Was that an okay recap of the events?
That was perfect.
That Kodocha Girl. Okay.
Nice. I fully understand now.
There you go. It was weird though. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like the fan was weird. Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's probably below Takashi arc for me, honestly. But it's not that I hate it. It's just the worst.
Now I'm getting morbidly curious and kind of want to watch it.
It's episodes 91 through I think 93 or 4. It's only a few episodes, but
yeah, it's worth a watch. I mean, it's not bad. It's entertaining, but it's not the best of the anime exclusive content.
Yes, I definitely agree. I ironically, the math video arc I did kind of the fact that she was I don't really because obviously Sana's bad at math, a girl after my own heart, and is struggling with the concepts that she's supposed to be teaching in this video, but Fuka, is a really good tutor for her, and because of Sana's unique perspective as somebody who doesn't understand math, they are able to make the video really good and useful for students. So I kind of like what they did with that little part of the arc. This is the fan club stuff that I thought was weird. That's just me. And also just, I always hate when I feel like the series, especially with the anime only arcs, they tend to make the characters do things just for the sake of moving the plot where they want it to go. They don't necessarily, the character motivations are often, I think, lacking, or they're out of character in the anime only arcs, personally.
I thought that, especially for Ray in the New York arc, I felt like he was,
oh my god, yes,
entirely too goofy for his what is supposed to be like who he is and his personality, but that's just
completely
me.
Yeah, no, complete agree. Ray is good at his job. That's something the anime does not seem to want to let him be. They're like,
yeah,
this guy
I feel,
can't do anything. He's stupid.
I feel very mixed about it because like the funny Ray moments like have me laughing out loud, but at the same time I'm like, before he just, wanted to be a great manager and father figure to Sana, and now he's just there to bring the lulls.
Yeah.
It's like there's a concept there's a TV trope for this, and I think it's called the Flanderization.
Yes.
Of a character, which is essentially, for those who don't know, when a character starts one way and ends the series a completely different / more extreme version of themselves. And it refers to The Simpsons. The character Ned Flander kind of started as just like a guy and now is like a very weird guy. They just like amped up all of the aspects of his character to like an 11. I also refer to this as the Winston Bishopification of a character, if you guys watched New Girl at all.
I did not.
Okay, it's a sitcom. It's a good time, but there's a character there who like starts out like very cool and normal and then is so whack by the end of that series, where it's like, how did we get here? And I think Ray is experiencing that a little bit.
That makes
Kind of
sense.
reminds me of Eric Matthews from Boy Meets World a little bit.
Oh, yes. Perfect example. Eric was so cool in season 1.
Oh yeah, and then like I remember because I was very invested in Boy Meets World. I'm not gonna lie, when I was a teenager. Of course it was in reruns, but like, and I remember like sitting there and watching it, and like before I knew it, there was like an episode that like was like a dream or something of like Eric doing stuff, and it was like, wow, this is really weird. Like he's like dressed up in costumes. Like what is happening?
I mean,
I have mixed feelings on the later seasons because I do think Eric is really, really funny, but it's just like he's just not the same character.
Exactly, just like Ray.
Did you guys watch Girl Meets World, the sequel series?
I did
a little bit. I was kind of turned off by all the like nostalgia stuff they were trying to throw at us, but
the nostalgia stuff was why I was watching it in the first place. But like what they did with Eric in Girl Meets World was quite odd indeed. He comes in like season 1 like a mountain man. He'd been living as a hermit in the woods for like years, apparently. They're like, we haven't heard from Eric in a long time. Then they bring him on the show and I'm like, how did we get here? What is going on?
That's kind of funny.
It was, but it was also like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Eric was so cool, and now Eric is so weird. I love it. Anyway, is it time to chat Karate Club arc?
Yeah,
are we ready emotionally?
I'm excited. Yes.
Okay, cool.
I am ready.
The Karate Club arc was so interesting to me because it's like they were like kind of trying to do the Komori arc from the manga, but like not. Like Nakao is like kind of Komori, but like less, like better looking and apparently more sympathetic, I guess. I don't know.
Is this that the quiet kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one who wanted to be Akito's friend.
That was my impression anyway, that they were trying to take aspects of the Komori arc and do them in the anime.
Super weird. It's like it's following the manga, but it's also like doing their own thing at the same time.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what to think about it. I do remember when watching it that things were like moving really quickly though. That like I feel like things were moving too fast for when like it didn't really make things convincing when the kid finally snaps, like that's kind of all I remember about it though.
Yeah, I agree. It was just forced, maybe because like, oh well, we're only gonna make a few more episodes. Let's just push this in here, but water it down. Because yeah, it's definitely a watered down version of the Kazuyuki situation. And it's honestly like and this might be controversial. I feel differently about it now, but when I first read the manga and got to that point, I was kind of like, it felt really out of the blue to me, the Kazuyuki situation, and how he just kind of is, we see him in the background a few times in a few panels. And, I guess that's the point, we're not really paying attention to him, and, that's just how it is sometimes. And then, he wants to be friends, but he just can't bring himself to do so. And like he ends up running away, and it's kind of piled up on top of Akito going through the abuse with Sengoku. And I at first thought that was like a weird plot device, I guess. I understand it now, like as I've read it over and over and over, like I've grown used to it. But the Nakao thing is like an even worse version of that. Like it's so random, and it's like what you said, Jacob. It's like him snapping, the reasons why he snaps aren't justified in the anime at all.
Yeah.
Like it's very contrived.
And I kind of felt that way about the Kazuyuki thing too. But when I kind of put it in perspective, like the bigger picture of, Akito's growth and, what happens in the later volumes, like it makes sense. It's still like, it's a weird situation. And like I said, I still think it pops out of nowhere, but it makes sense in the context of what happens. But in the karate arc with Nakao, they kind of have that, when they're in the hospital at the end, and they're tying everything together, and I think there's like this whole thing about like, there's a reason, we have to live, basically. And it's like that whole thing, like when Akito sees his mom in the manga. And yeah, it's weird, and it's forced, and it's too short for what it is. And the fact that it's so short makes any kind of suspense or drama to it just completely evaporates.
I also think the other thing about it that I find really odd is that like they certainly, I think there's an alternate universe where there's a Kazuyuki Komori arc in the manga where Sana accompanies Akito to the forest, and that maybe things play out differently. But I do think that it takes away from Akito's character development a little bit, because that interaction, that conversation is so, I think, key to his development. And so it was interesting watching Sana go with him to find Nakao and being such a big part of that. Fixing that conversation felt a little bit like it took away from Akito's ability to reach out on his own, which is something that he's, I think, learning to do. And that's what I think that manga arc really illustrates, is that he realizes at the stage that he has made mistakes and that he has hurt people without meaning to, and he's finally taking some responsibility for that. And then, of course, as you mentioned, Ari, the later volumes really dig into the aftermath of the Kazuyuki Komori arc. But it did just feel weird. I also love that moment when they're all like, let's look in the north building.
It's like, did no one seriously check there before? They were like, they just erased it from their memory.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And the getting stuck in the window together was a choice.
Not gonna lie, that was so stupid.
Like
soap opera peak right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like these writers. It was odd. I also think it's interesting that like there's really not a ton of times we see blood in Kodocha, but it's the season finale for both seasons. We get blood, and Sana and Akito are in a weirdly life or death situation both times.
Now, the first time, the first time makes sense, the life or death situation, but being stuck in a window, like,
that's sorry. The best you got.
Like, as much as the Takashi arc is controversial and just bad, in general, the ending I like the ending of it. They wrap it up in a very good way. It's a very Kodocha-esque way, but this, yeah, it's very soap opera-y.
It does. It is interesting too, though, that you say like the way that they like wrap it up, or the message, I think the core message of both of those episodes, the end of the Takeshi Gojo arc of season 1 and then this episode, is once again, you know, Akito is convincing somebody that there are reasons to go on living, which is interesting. I don't think I necessarily have thoughts beyond that, just something I noticed as we were talking about that.
I thought also, the preview was like super weird. Like,
oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, we're getting new episodes. Oh wait, never mind.
I said to, I'm like, hello viewers, I said to Ari and Jacob before we started recording that watching that felt like I was on drugs. Like it was so, I'm still processing everything that I saw in that preview. Weird character, possible Yakuza connections, the Hamilton family being broke, which I'm like, I can't do another bankruptcy arc. Like, I'm tired.
I've said this before and I'll say it again, and I have no concrete evidence of this being true, but I 100% believe that they had more episodes completed, but they didn't have a full season. But Kodocha got canceled or something similar happened, and they just threw that together. I don't know why, but I feel like everything that was in that was what they had planned for a season 3, and they have episodes somewhere hidden in a vault in Japan, and I would swear on my life that it exists. I have no proof, but I believe that, and that's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's kind of the impression I got when seeing it. It was just like, did they just get canceled and couldn't show this to us? Or like, I think I said last time, I like no proof, but I feel like all the New York stuff kind of like made viewers not interested anymore. And I feel like that kind of made it spiral into maybe cancellation, like, you know, not really based on any proof, but it's just kind of a hunch, but it would make sense.
Good hunch. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Cause that's that we got to remember, everybody, is that 20 episodes is 20 episodes to us now. Like that's something we can get done in a couple of days if we're really like binging a show. That's 20 weeks in 1997 and 1998.
Like 6 months.
That's half a year. Like,
yeah,
it's a long time. I know it. I'm actually of the opinion that it wasn't like that they had, because each, like looking at the clips that they had, to me, that's probably like 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe episodes. I don't even think they were full arcs. I think that they just had some additional episodes maybe put together. Because like it's exactly the sort of zany stuff that would be like a random piece of filler anywhere else in the series, I think. But it's like, I'm also like, I'm not that broken up about the fact that we didn't get a season 3, because like all of the clips that they show, I'm like, wow, nothing from the manga. So
wow, I would skip this.
I'm not interested anyway. So especially with like Akito not being able to like advance with his black belt also seemed odd.
Maybe that was put in there because they plan on stretching it out even more.
I guess. But it was a trip. I don't know. I said this to Ari the other day. We were just like chatting about something else. But something about season 2 that I find really interesting is that it seems like they're really trying to keep Sana and Akito separated for a lot of the episodes, because especially after the Christmas Eve episode, because then they would have to deal with the ramifications of a confession and or getting together and or doing a dating arc. So it feels like they're trying to keep them either separated or with other people. The karate arc, I think, would have been a good opportunity for them to like get some moments, but they just pretend like nothing's happening.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Yeah.
Like the whole show works around Akito and Sana and their chemistry together. Like I think that's why the show is so good. And then it makes sense, like just separating them. But again, I skipped those episodes.
Well, let's focus on the positives now. Let's talk about some of our...
I'm sorry. I feel like I've just been ragging on the show. I promise I love this show.
No, we all have, I think.
I'm like, Jacob, me too, honey. Like,
It's like a
we're smacking down.
it's a weird love-hate relationship with the Kodocha season 2 anime.
Yes.
But
So
let's talk about some of our favorite anime only moments, changes, things.
I have one moment written down. On episode 60, I remember it was right after Sana had figured out that Akito was dating Fuka while they were filming Mansion of Water. And I don't remember exactly why they started like hugging each other or whatever, but they started crying and Naozumi hugged Sana. And in the manga, it's just like, oh, okay, like they hug. But in the anime, Sana has like this inner monologue of like not crying because she can only cry with Akito, like because of the past or whatever. Like it was a little over dramatic, but I thought it was like kind of a nice touch that like she couldn't bring herself to like cry in front of Naozumi because of what Akito said to her, you know, all that time ago.
Yeah, I love that moment too. That's definitely in my top 10. I admittedly like anytime I make like an edit or I use that scene often.
Do you have one, Ari?
A favorite anime moment? Anime season 2. Let me see. I mean, there's a lot of good moments. My favorite, that would be up there, the one that Jacob mentioned. I guess another one, again, it's hard to say. I do kind of like the whole moment with like another Christmas episode and Akito's making her another snowman, and it's really cute. I don't like how they're interrupted by Tsuyoshi and their friends, but I do think it's a cute moment for the anime. You know, it definitely is not like the manga at all, and I kind of wish they would have kissed there because I feel like that would have been perfect. But you know, it's good for the anime, and it's one of the moments that always stuck with me when I watched season 2 for the first time, and I enjoyed it when I watched it again.
I agree. I like that moment. It's super cute. It is also like canonically difficult because Christmas Eve in the manga is their first date. We couldn't even get a lousy confession on Christmas Eve in the manga.
Exactly.
But Hisai and Gomi supremacy. So that was nice to see them.
Yeah, I really ship them hard, honestly. I think
I'm into it.
It'd be so cute if like they would have had episodes with them together in middle school, but you know, maybe in a fan fiction or maybe in a reboot. We'll see.
I'll see what I can do.
Put that prayer circle together for the reboot.
Yep.
Oh. Yes. I liked that Christmas, the snowball fight was really cute. Also, like with Tsuyoshi being like Sana and Akito's #1 supporter and fan, I'm like, you know better, buddy. Back off. Leave them be. I think that mine is probably it's a scene when Zenjiro and Sana are trying to get the Child's Toy Show back on the air, and Fuka, Aya, and Tsuyoshi are helping with the proposal, and Akito is helping Sana with her math homework.
I like that one too. I actually just
Yeah.
watched that episode recently.
I like it a lot because like one, like Akito just like walks over, like, you know, presses the button that makes the kotatsu come out. Fuka's like, wow, he's super comfortable here. And then like just watching their chemistry. And I loved how like Fuka's such a good friend. We're like, Fuka's such a good friend. She does not deserve the hate that she gets. And I will die on that hill. But I love that she's like, as she's watching them, she's just like, they really get each other, you know, like that's something special and that she understands that. I like that, you know, they make her like rooting for them in her own way. And then also I just like, you know, Sana and Akito arguing about nothing because that's what they do best. Should we move on to favorite manga moments, things, or do we have anything to add to the anime?
One thing I would like to bring up, and this is just me, we get the best, in my opinion, ending song in this season, Love Me Deeper. So I really enjoyed the inclusion of that because it kind of brought back the suspenseful feel of the ending of the episodes that Panic had. I feel like Daijobu didn't really have that suspense, and I feel like Love Me Deeper brought back that feeling.
I agree. And also, yeah, Daijobu. This is a very silly song to be an ending song on Kodocha because everything is not daijoubu. Distinctly not daijoubu.
I think it's a good song by itself, but just like as an ending, it's just like, okay, tonal shift, okay.
Yes, and they do so
Yep.
much weird editing with it too. Specifically with that ending theme, they don't tend to need to do this, I think, with Panic or with Love Me Deeper. They'll be like blaring like either like Always Be With You or like one of the more intense instrumental songs for Kodocha that are pretty emotional. And then they will have to do some very weird audio editing to shift into the ending theme song, which they don't really have to do with Panic or Love Me Deeper, which have that kind of dramatic cliffhanger music that I think really helps ease the episode out. That's just me. Is it manga o'clock?
Yes, I'm excited.
Or can it be manga o'clock?
Yes. I'm so excited, but oh my god. I can't wait to talk about this because we really haven't touched much on the later manga scenarios in the podcast yet. I know we have, but we don't really go in depth a lot with it. So, Jacob, do you want to go first with some of your favorite manga moments?
Yeah, I think chapter 37 is probably my favorite chapter in like the whole thing is when spoilers, I guess, like when Akito, I guess, dies momentarily and sees his mom, and it's just like super emotional. That's one of my favorites. It's hard to like talk about it beyond that, but it's just really powerful. I really like just the implications of everything that happens and like how like, oh, these words I've heard them before kind of thing, with him remembering when Sana pretended to be his mom. That's one of my favorite moments. And I think another one, going way further, probably one of my favorite moments not only in the show but just in like fiction, is when Akito finally breaks down in front of like the doll syndrome Sana after not seeing her smile for so long, and like implying that, you know, her smile gives him strength to move on. Like him finally breaking down after not seeing her smile for so long is another one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, actually those are my two as well because of how powerful they are. And the mother scene in particular, it always makes me cry. Like even talking about it now, I was like holding back tears a little bit, if I'm being honest. Because it's just, you know, it takes you back to that moment in the very beginning of the series when Zana was comforting him and, you know, telling him to go on living. And it's amazing writing, and I really wish we could have seen that animated, but
Same.
definitely one of my favorite manga moments in general too. In fact, I think it might be my favorite of all time.
It's very powerful, and one of the things I love about that scene in particular is a little bit also how it's paralleled in Deep Clear, how like the force of Sana's love in some ways I think pulls Akito out of or back to our plane of existence after his conversation with his mom, because like that's the thing that kind of triggers him coming back, is, you know, like seeing her in the waiting room crying and stuff, and seeing his dad and sister giving blood for him and stuff. And then we see something similar in Deep Clear where Akito's like deep love for her kind of pulls her out of her what she's going through in that moment. And so I love seeing those parallels because they love each other so much.
And you know a series is good when you're talking about like good moments and you just can't help but get emotional while talking about them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Feels like you're talking about real people too.
Definitely. Characterization in this series is really, really well done. Well, I think you guys picked some really beautiful, powerful, emotional moments. And meanwhile, I'm over here like, I like when they kiss after they date. Because I'm kicking my heels like a schoolgirl. Like, I like when they smooth. I think another favorite moment of mine, besides like hug to say goodbye, comma, seemingly forever, which is definitely a favorite in the series. I do love when they're basically mid-confession and they're fighting, and like, you know, finally, you know, she's like, they just sort of reach a point where like the argument just stops and they like look at each other and they have to kind of absorb what just happened and like what they have just now said and all the words that are now out there in the room that they can't take back. And specifically in the manga, I love the art for that scene. Like that look is to me just one of my favorites because Obana is so good. I think especially with using eyes as a point of expression. And I think it really shines in that scene where like you feel it. You feel the tension and the discomfort, and that everything is going to be different after this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And this series is too good to be unnoticed by so many people, dude.
Yes.
There needs to be another reboot because anime is booming right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was really happy when I saw that, and we talked about it in the Kodocha Discord a while ago. That one, what's it called? Starts with a K, and they're coming back with a new season of it.
Kimi ni Todoke, I am so excited for that. It has been so long since season 2.
It's been like what, 8 years, 9 years?
It's been 13 years.
13 years. Oh my
See,
god.
they just ended it and now they're coming back with it. Okay, like side tangent. Last time I tried to watch Kimi ni Todoke, I'm just like, it's been a while since I've seen it. Like, I want to at least get started with it. I'll watch the first 3 episodes. Watch the entire season in one day.
Dang.
I have it on my watch list on Hulu, and like when I saw that, it made me excited because a lot of people were like that I know were really excited for that, and I feel like that kind of in a way gave me hope that we'd get more shoujo reboots and extra seasons. Exactly.
It's been a good year to be a shoujo fan, because like Clear Card getting a sequel, if you're a Cardcaptor Sakura fan like me, that was a very exciting April 1st of this year. If we had a Chihayafuru season 4, like I
would die for that.
I'm sad.
Like, how do they end season 3 like that and just not give us anything else?
Oh, I know. And I think they could honestly do season 4 with just like a movie or something, like, because I'm reading the manga right now, and it feels possible, like, because it's still mostly oriented around karate games, which is why it's moving a little slowly, I think, in the manga. But like in terms of time, not that much time passes. But yeah, no, I know. My
How
husband
far are you
was
along in the manga? There's like a scene that's like my favorite in Chihayafuru that was never animated.
I'm in chapter like where I'm in like the final kind of arc. I'm on chapter 230.
Okay, so you've already seen like Taichi versus Arata then.
Yes. Oh.
Yes, that was one of my favorite moments.
So good.
Why can't we have more seasons so that can be animated?
I know. That, I love it so much. Like, I don't want to spoil like very much about Chihayafuru, because Ari, you haven't watched it, right?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'll keep it to myself. Jacob, we're gonna offline about this, and I'm gonna tell you some things. It'll be fine.
It's been a while, so I don't remember a whole lot, but
it's so good. Like, it's just so good. It's like, it's trying to sell Chihayafuru to me, where it's like, so there's a series, and it's technically a sports series about an ancient like Japanese card game that is played using the Hyakunin Isshu, and the romance is a C plot, like not that important to the series, but you're gonna love it. And I do. Like,
it's kind of a hard sell, but once you get into it, it's amazing.
You get sucked in so deeply, and it's like all of a sudden I'm like crying every time the Chihayafuru card is read, because I love friendship so much. And it's just oh, it's fine, we're fine. Anyway. Yes.
Just like Chihaya's like senses go Super Saiyan as soon as she hears the card, and she automatically gets it every single time.
I love it so much. My girl. But you're so right. Kodocha also like deserves the whole world, and it has not gotten it, and it's so upsetting to me.
It's tragic.
But Discotek has done such a solid for this fandom in rescuing this license and bringing it to a wider audience. It does fill me with hope, and if we can get a manga reprint, oh, gosh, that would just be everything.
Yeah, I've been very hopeful, within the last couple of years in the fandom, because of Discotek's work, but also, I've mentioned it on my Twitter, that I used to make like these little like clip compilations of Kodocha before I like really was like, oh, I'm gonna do a channel just like talking about it, and a lot of them have blown up lately. Like, I think my highest viewed one is almost to 150K views.
Nice.
And
awesome.
it's funny because a lot of the people who are clicking on it have never seen it. And I read the comments, of course, and a lot of them think it's like the Ghost Stories anime. And I'm like, well, there's moments where, they say things that are really unhinged, but it's not like that. But it's gotten people to watch it. And I've gotten a few comments on my channel where they say, oh, I found Kodocha through clip compilations and I started watching it and like it was a pleasant surprise. Like it got really deep and I was very invested in it. And I'm just like, those comments just warm my heart so much.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I mean, honestly, like even with this podcast, like I sort of expected that, maybe 10 of our friends from the Discord would like listen to this podcast. And it's been the reception has been way more than I expected. And even like with making my daily Kodocha content, like I was like, I remember the first 50 Twitter followers, I was so happy. I was like, wow, that is like a very full like party room at a restaurant. Like that is so many people. And just watching it kind of grow has been so special over these last few years. And I'm very excited about where it can go.
Me too. So did we have any closing thoughts on manga moment?
The manga is beautiful and perfect.
Yes.
Yes. I'll just reiterate one of my favorite moments is when they embrace each other on the street.
Yes.
Still one of my favorites. Has a lot of impact on me. Even when I read it out of context, it's always just very powerful.
Yeah. Just watching him soften, and kind of just like give in to the affection when he's been holding himself. So like he's such a tense character. I feel like he keeps his body so tense. And you can just like see it kind of melt a bit in that moment.
Now we can move on.
Now we can talk about anime changes we dislike, even though we've already kind of talked about anime changes that we dislike.
We really touched on that. Like, I think we got everything. I mean, is there
no, we have
that...
not. I have one complaint. I have two complaints. I have one complaint. I would like it known that Babbitt's counting song is bad for me emotionally.
Oh, yes, I wrote that down and I was like, oh, I hate that so much. I skipped it every time and I never usually skip things. Like I never skip openings or little middle things, like, bumpers, but that, oh my god.
I almost want to count and tally how much time altogether it takes. Like, I'm pretty sure it's an entire episode's worth.
More. It's got to be more, especially if you also count the ukulele songs, which less annoying, but I still did not care for. It's like, are we really like struggling that much to like get enough content for an episode that we have to do this? I just, from the bottom of my heart, like, I want to swear so badly. That's like, we're trying to keep the podcast PG-13, but your girl just really wants to use a 4-letter word because I really, really, really hate Babbitt's counting song. What about you guys?
I think we're all in agreement here, but what about you, Jacob?
I think maybe a controversial take is when Sana is saying goodbye to Akito just before the New York arc. I think like the over dramatization of like the camera swinging around and panning around them with the song, it's like so over dramatic to the point that it's just really funny to me. Like I couldn't take it seriously. It's like, I know this is like a serious moment, but it's just so, it's trying to sell it to you so hard that it ends up being really funny.
I think it's a little long. I agree. Like I think like I don't mind the camera or the colors even, but they run the footage like 2 or 3 times in a row. It's a pretty lengthy hug to say goodbye, comma, seemingly forever. So I hear you. I hear you. But that is a controversial opinion. You are very brave for saying that.
Yeah, for sure.
If you change your mind and you don't want it out there, let me know.
Okay.
Nobody has to know.
No, I'm used to people disagreeing with me. It's fine.
You're so brave. So yeah, you have to just like look at me wrong or type like maybe without a smiley face, and I'm like, oh my god.
Same.
Ari, what about you? Anime changes you dislike?
I pretty much covered mine in our earlier discussion, but is there anything that I haven't said yet? I really don't like that episode where they're going back to Japan and Akito and Fuka are on a date, and it's like we're supposed to like feel all warm and fuzzy watching it. That makes me mad.
It's fair. The teen net photo shoot shenanigan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hate
that
that.
was weird.
Wait, what
They were
episode
like,
was that? Was that like right after New York or?
yeah. It's like
Okay.
episode. Yeah, we got along great afterwards. Episode 82 aired on Halloween in 1997.
Okay.
Yeah. Akito seems to begin to like Fuka a bit. Akito and Fuka get a picture of them together in a magazine saying they're a great couple. It's like,
Yeah,
it's like, in what universe were like the Kodocha writers like, well, we need to give something to the Akito and Fuka shippers who don't exist.
I seriously, I don't think I've ever seen anybody who likes that ship.
If you are an Akito and Fuka shipper, I just want to talk, and I just want to know that you're out there. Like, message me privately. I'm just curious.
Same here, actually.
I have so many questions. Yeah. Okay. Oh, speaking of things and Naozumi's new manager.
Oh, she is so insufferable.
Oh my God. I hate everything about her.
Me too. Her voice, her weird
her voice is that's the one thing I couldn't do about her.
Her titties.
The fact that like there's like this weird, and I don't want to say it because we'll like get kicked off YouTube, but the weird and I know you guys will know what I'm talking about, the weird little undertone that's there between her. Yeah. Why do we need to have that?
This is something that I feel somewhat strongly about has to do with the director of the series. And I will trash talk Akitaro Daichi every day of my life with my full chest, and I will not feel bad about it. But something that he does and that you see over the course of his career is that he takes the series that he adapts, and he did this with Fruits Basket 2001 as well, is like anything that's like vaguely sexual in nature, he ramps it up to like a 15 and or adds a lot of weirdly sexual stuff to his series. Kodocha is certainly not, has an element of that as well. And I think that comes from the top. That comes from him. Because
I think so too, actually. I've thought of that myself, but I never really, I guess, spoke about it out loud with anyone before. It's been more of a observation.
Yeah, because there's even like a scene with okay, so in the New York arc, poor Maeda, Naozumi's manager, they do him so dirty in the anime.
Yeah.
They really do. But him getting injured the second time at the airport, and it's very brief, but the thing that injures him is he sees some bouncing chest that is, I wouldn't say graphic, but it's more than Riho's cleavage. You can pretty much see a shape. And it feels so out of place in the series, especially as something that was, as people are always reminding us, it is a kids show. It's aimed at kids. It's in a kids time slot. So like, why is there so much boobage? Like,
and it's not even, like, I don't mind a subtle innuendo, but that's not subtle at all.
Oh, I know. Well, it's they like, and so with Fruits Basket 2001 too, like they really made Shigure somewhat of a predator, frankly. And I think it was perhaps a little unfair. So that is my thoughts on that.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
Same.
Oh, bless you.
A long way since then, I think, so.
Oh, yes. So real. Like, or at least not, those elements are kind of kept within their own series, which is fine. But I don't always think they have a place being added to something that didn't ask for it. You can keep your boobs and rent a girlfriend, but like.
Yes.
Is it favorite filler time?
Yeah.
Woohoo! Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
What you got?
So I have two. So one of my favorites is actually the Natsumi episode. So I think this is like the last filler before we get into Karate Club, I think. I'm not positive. But I just love how she gets an episode, and I love how Akito is like a good brother in this episode, standing up to that guy who basically was dating the entire school. And it was just nice. It was a really refreshing little episode because we don't really see much with her ever. other than like the canon stuff that happens. So I really enjoyed that, to see, the bond between the brother and the sister, and just to kind of get a glimpse into what's going on in her world. But the other episode, and this might be a surprise to people listening, maybe not, I don't know. But I really like, and I know it's weird and it's crazy and it's stupid, I love the Mecha Hayama Mama episode. It makes me laugh so much because it's like, it has those references in it, to that other shoujo series from Ribbon, the Nurse Angel Ririka anime, which I have on my list, and I'm excited to watch that one. I've heard really good things about that. And I also, of course, like with Neon Genesis Evangelion being in my top 5 anime, like having the references there just was fantastic for me. I really enjoyed how they referenced it at the end, and yeah, I just loved how zany and insane that was, and I get so much joy watching that episode.
I'm really happy for you, and I mean that so sincerely.
And again, like, I know it's dumb. I know it is so stupid, but it's one of those things that's so stupid that it's funny.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was watching that episode. My husband came in. It was just like every time. I feel like he always comes into the room when like something extremely unhinged is happening in the Kodocha anime. And I'm like, I don't even know how to begin explaining this to you. Like, there's so much good choices. Good choices.
Thank you.
How about you, Jacob?
I don't know. I think something I should make clear is that, like, I feel like filler in Kodocha is kind of like a stain, like a black stain on the series. Like, I don't think there's a whole lot of good filler episodes, but like even when there are, and there are a couple, like the Akito and is it Mamie or Mommy? Like I see her name and it's just, but then I remember the dub. Anyway, like there are really good filler episodes, but even when they're there, it just like wrecks the pacing for me. Like we go from like this story that's being told and like this pattern of arc after arc, and then we just like hit a wall and just keep hitting that wall for 30 episodes until we finally like get through the wall. Like with that said, I'm sorry, Ari, but I feel like that episode we were just talking about, I was very excited to see everyone again after the New York arc. And so even though they were like dating or whatever, I'm just like, it's Akito, it's Tsuyoshi, it's everyone. I haven't seen them in so long. And so just honestly, like that alone just made me really like it, but that might have been just a reaction to not being in the New York arc anymore. Anyway, what were you saying?
A valid reaction.
Yeah, I totally get it. I was just thinking, and this is a little off topic, but it's similar. There's like this opposite effect of what you were describing. My husband and I are wrapping up Naruto Shippuden right now, it's been really fun. Watching it, watching it alone is like tedious, but like watching it with my husband's been really fun. But towards the end, we have about 20 episodes left, I think. And they're getting into the the conclusion of Shippuden. And, we get like 2 episodes where they're fighting, the main antagonist. And then all of a sudden, there's like this weird flashback episode where like they're back in the Ninja Academy and like they're doing something silly and zany, and it's like, it absolutely destroys the pacing. It's so bad. But I totally get that. Like I feel like if those episodes were placed in a different spot in the series, I wouldn't hate them as much as I do. So yeah.
Yeah, never watch Dragon Ball. If you do, watch Kai, because the filler is awful. And like it's that exact same feeling. Like, why are we flashbacking to the last episode? Like we just watched that. We don't need a recap.
Yeah, anyway. Recap episodes in general make me particularly unhappy. And Kodocha, I feel like, does a few of those clip show episodes. Every show does, like, just period. Like I think you'd be hard pressed to name anything longer than 50 episodes, both with in conventional TV and anime and animated series. It doesn't have a clip show episode. Not my favorite. But and Jacob, I do kind of agree with you where I do my favorite episodes of Kodocha are the ones that are basically really good adaptations of the manga.
Yeah.
But within that, like filler that I enjoy tends to be about characters that like are canon, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
like I liked is maybe a strong word for it, but there are parts of episode 96, Adult Love Can Wait, that I appreciated because it was nice to see Rei and Asako get a little bit more time, because that's something Obana says in the author's notes all the time, is that like she wished she had more time to explore that relationship further, but she just wasn't able to. So I feel like the anime like almost like had an opportunity to explore some of those relationships deeper, like with the mommy episode, for example. But then they tend to invent characters and do really weird things instead, like bring back Misako's ex-husband for some reason for an episode. Like kindly, like, sorry, Ryosuke, who gives a
Yeah.
you know? And my other
Yeah.
favorite filler from this season is episode 98, the love designed by my sister, which is the Natsumi episode, who I think is a very complicated character that they could have dived into a little bit with the extra time that they had to explore. It was nice to get to see a little something from her.
Mhm.
So like my favorite filler are the ones where they take the existing concepts and they dive deeper into them, not the ones where they're like, let's do this for reasons unclear to me.
I don't know if I like the episodes surrounding it, but I really like the concept of the episodes where Sana couldn't say the word demon
Mm.
for her shoot for whatever TV show she had because of her past with Aikido. I kind of wish they explored it more, but I liked the inclusion of it at least.
Me too, actually. Yeah, that was good. I that
Yeah.
was what got me hooked back on season two when I watched it before the new Blu-rays, because I tried watching it the first time and I told you like I kind of gave up on it, and then I read the manga instead. And then when I watched it again, that was what got me hooked again, because I wanted them to, explore that too. Um, I thought they did a decent job with it, though. I mean, for what was happening and how, the anime tends to handle things, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely one of my favorite pieces. The only complaints I have about it really are like the smear campaign on Sana from the television staff afterwards is a little bit much. And also, like, it's just not unusual within the entertainment industry to have discussions about things like lines and scripts. So the vilification of Sana and her career afterwards was a little melodramatic, but I thought
So
like
far.
the concept of like not being able to say the line, that was a good story moment. But the aftermath was a little odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, still a good episode though. Good episodes. That
Mhm.
the character, like that's like the Akito-esque character, Shinji or whatever his name was. Did I make that up?
Can't
I
remember
trust you. I
actually.
don't remember.
Nah. I don't know if I'm right or not. Something about his design really reminded me of like Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now I'm
Everybody's favorite
remembering.
delinquent. Um, so that was all. Anything else we want to add on season two?
Hmm.
Final thoughts?
I will say I think episodes 52 to 64 are probably some of the best in the show. Just
Oh
to
yeah.
add more positivity in there.
Absolutely. I again like because when they adapt the manga, like they do such a good job,
Mhm.
you know? And I think they added a couple of things to the Mizuno Yakata shoot, but like none of them were that egregious to me. Like I understood the reasons for the choices. I want to live in the timeline where we got 50 additional episodes of perfectly
What's supposed
adapted
to
manga.
happen?
Yeah.
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 That'd been great. One of the things I think is like the animation in this season, I think is really strong, really beautiful. And obviously the voice actors are doing the most and doing an amazing job. It really is a very well crafted and well done show, even for my complaints with the writing.
I agree. Yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10, despite its flaws. But I try to weigh it based on, if it stands on its own apart from the manga, and it does. I think even, if you hadn't read it, I think it's still a really solid series despite pacing and weird fillers that don't make any sense. And yeah, but I think the first half of it there, or at least the chunk of it before New York, is a very solid sequence of episodes.
Yeah.
Agreed. Still a great season, and I'm still so thankful that like we have access to it now, because we have never really had legal access to it. So it's such a relief that we have that now, and that people are able to see the full series, because that's something I've heard from a lot of fans over the course of the last couple of years, is that they, you know, after episode 51, they didn't know what happened. Because it wasn't available. So I'm very thankful that everybody can have a chance to experience more Kodocha.
It's always a good thing.
Yes, always.
Yep, we have Discotheque to thank for that.
Yes.
Doing the most.
Eternally grateful.
I have bought so many of their releases, and I do not intend to stop. I want to give them all of my money. Like,
same here. It's just like, there's so many things I want to get from them, and it's just like, oh, I need more money.
Yep, I so feel you. Well, if we don't have anything to add, question mark?
I'm good. I've said everything I needed to.
Yep, same here.
I'm so glad you came back to join us, Jacob. It is always so much fun to have you here.
Fun.
Yeah, same. It's fun to talk to you too.
The conversation always flows so easy, and then I end up with like, 2 hours of conversation to listen through and try to edit into a conversation. But I'm always having a great time while I'm here, and that's because you're great. So thank you.
Thanks. You guys are great too.
Thank you. Definitely bring you back for another, if there's another topic that you'd like to discuss with us, it'd be awesome.
For sure.
Yeah. And on that note, dear listeners, if you are interested in joining us on 19 O'Clock News, a Kodocha podcast, you can sign up at the link in our description. I have reached out to everybody that has reached out to us so far, and I haven't gotten a ton of responses back. So if you have been wondering if we were going to reach out to you or not, I have made an attempt via the messaging choice, or your choice of messaging app. So check your messages, check your, the message requests, check your spam. I might be in there asking if you want to join us. So just a little housekeeping note before we take off.
All right. Well, would you like to wrap us up then?
Why not? Thank you so much for joining us on 19 O'Clock News Kodocha podcast. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to 19 O'Clock News, a Kodocha podcast.
19 O'Clock News is hosted by That Kodocha Girl and Mahou Shoujo M.
We love making new friends. Feel free to join us in the Kodocha Discord under Kodocha_media.
19 O'Clock News is not affiliated with any current or previous rights holders to Kodomo no Omocha by Miho Obana.